Hello, my name's Dave Blair, and I wanted to introduce myself to the Simpit Pit Crew. And I thought I'd do a little talk and drive around Nordschleife. Anyway, this Lola car here is part of the new car pack, and it's a great car, so I thought I'd take it out while I talk about how I got into sim racing. So I talked with Sean Cole, and we talked about doing a video where maybe people from the Simpit Pit Crew, if they wanted, could make a video to introduce themselves to the rest of the crew, and we could all get to know each other a little better. Anyway, this is my attempt at that, and I'm going to try and stay on topic and talk about how I got involved in sim racing. Let me first start off by saying I am using a Thrustmaster TMX Pro steering wheel, and I'm using a Playseat Challenge rig, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to that step. Anyway, let me start off by saying that in the early 90s I had a roommate, and he moved in, and he had I think he had a Sega Saturn, I'm not sure, but he had a game called Road Rash, and I absolutely loved that game. I couldn't get enough of it, and him and I used to play that all the time. And then I remember they were coming out with the original PlayStation 1, and I had heard that they had Road Rash on that, and it had better graphics. And so I was like, I'm gonna go buy that because I love that game. So I went down and I bought a PlayStation, and I bought Road Rash, and the guy behind the counter told me he had a couple other games he could recommend if I wanted. And I was like, okay. And so he said, you should get Resident Evil and you should get Need for Speed. So I bought all three games and came home and immediately started playing Road Rash until I beat it. I mean, I love that game, and I had so much fun. And after that game, I did Resident Evil and played that game until I beat it, and that was also a great game. Then I played the Need for Speed game, and that one took me a while. I played that game all the way through, and I was stuck on the final level. I think it was called Alpine, and they give you a choice between a Ferrari or Lamborghini. And I just raced that track over and over and over again until I beat it. And that is kind of what got me into sim racing, because after that I got into Gran Turismo, and I played with a controller, and it was kind of, I play in the far back view like I think that a lot of people do. And it was after that that I got into PC gaming. I never did get a PlayStation 2. I went straight to the PC, and I really got involved in first-person shooters. I played a lot of Counter-Strike and Return to Castle Wolfenstein online, and really enjoyed that. But I kind of got back into the racing games, but I wanted something more. I had a few Need for Speed games on the PC, and I ended up buying a Microsoft Sidewinder, I think it was my first steering wheel for the PC, and I used that on a few games. But I remember getting Live for Speed. Somebody told me, like, oh, you need to try a simulation game, and I couldn't even get the car around the track. It was that hard. I mean, I just slightly push on the accelerator and the car would spin out. So that kind of got me turned off from racing games, anyway, the simulation ones anyway, and I went back to the arcade type. It was about that time, I think the Xbox 360 was coming out, and we originally bought that for my son, and that's when I discovered Forza, and I was like, hey, this reminds me of Gran Turismo back in the day. And it was a lot of fun. The graphics were good, and the car selection was just incredible. Anyway, fast forward a little bit to, I bought every Forza that came out, but it was Forza 4, I think. I went out and I bought the Xbox 360 steering wheel, and I really got into that. That's when I couldn't race with the far back view anymore. Once I had the steering wheel, I moved to the hood view, and because it was either the hood view or the interior view with the steering wheel. And this view really bugs me because I have a physical steering wheel in front of me, and then I have a virtual steering wheel in front of me, and I feel like I'm sitting in the back seat, and I really didn't like it. But those were your views that you had, so I kind of went with the hood view because I still had the view, and I felt more like I was driving the car. Then after that, when I moved to the Xbox One, the Xbox 360 steering wheel was no longer supported. So I knew I had to find something else because I was still enjoying Forza. And that's when I went to, I knew I had to get a more serious wheel. So I went to Sean Cole's website and I watched some reviews that he did, and that's how I landed on the Thrustmaster TMX Pro. Again, I wasn't really sure I wanted to spend a whole lot of money, and it was very economical, and so I jumped on board with that and was having a great time. Then the next problem I ran into was my office chair kept sliding around, and I was getting tired of clamping the steering wheel to the desk. So then I was like, well, I need to get some kind of cockpit. And again, I went to Sean Cole's website, did a little research, found this Play Seat Challenge, and I really liked this concept because you could fold it up and move it out of the way if you didn't want it. And you could also bolt your steering wheel and your pedals to it and move it very easily all together. So that's what I landed on, and I was all ready for Forza 7. I was excited for it. It finally had this view that took out the steering wheel, and then when I played the demo, I was really disappointed. The graphics were great, the car selection was fantastic, but it didn't drive right. I was having all kinds of problems and spin outs, and I was like, this is not right. So anyway, I did a little more research on YouTube, and that's when I found Dan's Racing and Simulation channel. And he went in, he had the same steering wheel that I have right here, and I followed his settings, and it made a world of difference. Again, let me see if I can pull up my my assists here. Off, normal. So I was racing with the simulation steering because I had a simulation steering wheel, but that is not where you want to be. And Dan set that straight for me, and I followed his settings, and it made a world of difference. So that's kind of what I went to, and all of a sudden I was winning races left and right on multiplayer. Anyway, fast forward, so Forza 7 came out I think around September of 2017, and I was watching a lot more YouTube channels, and kind of got into Sean Cole's daily news show, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And he started talking about getting on a Assetto Corsa and racing in the sim racing system league for the Simpit. And so he finally talked me into it, and again, I kind of stayed away from the PC sim racing because it was so hard, but I was like, you know what, I've got 7 Forzas under my belt now, I'm ready to get in and try it out. So it was around Thanksgiving, Steam was having their sale, so I went in and bought a Assetto Corsa. Didn't cost me a whole lot of money. I followed Sean Cole's tips videos on how to download the tracks, download the cars, download all the apps that I needed to get into the game. And I joined about halfway through the BMW series, and that was fun. That was good. My field of view was off, but I got that dialed in after watching a few more videos. Thanks John Hill and of the Empty Box, and Dan of Dan's Racing Simulation, and Sean Cole. Anyway, once I had that all dialed in, the next car was the McLaren, and that was so hard. But anyway, made it through that one, and now we're in the DTM 90s. So that's kind of how I got to be in the Simpit pit crew. Anyway, I've been really enjoying racing with you guys, and just like Sean Cole, I will see y'all on the track.